Hello and welcome to Mounties Midweek. I am Drew Patrick and happy homecoming, everybody. On today's show, we fully embrace the homecoming spirit and we talk with an alum excelling in his career in sports media. We talk with a member of the 2018 Mansfield Athletic Hall of Fame class about some of his favorite Mansfield memories, and we talk with John Evans about Sprint football's game preparations. The field hockey team took on Seton Hill this past Saturday. Late in the first half, the Mounties strike first and it's Megan Griffin gets the goal there. Then, coming right out of the half, it's Dana Evans who gets the steal and gets the goal. The Mounties add another late Christy Beyer goal and the Mountaineers win 3-0. The next match for the field hockey squad is Wednesday as they take on the IUP Crimson Hawks. The women's soccer team had two matches this past week. In the first match, the team traveled to Kutztown to take on the 8th-ranked Golden Bears. The Golden Bears got the better of the Mounties, taking the game 7-0. The Mounties then took place in Senior Day on Sunday as they welcomed Edinburgh into town. The Fighting Scots had the lead heading into the half, up 2-0. The Mounties struck quickly in the second half. It's Bria
puts it into the middle and it sneaks through. That's a goal for the Mounties!
But it didn't take long for the Mounties to tie this one up as Eleni Gebbia sneaks this one through.
And down, turnaround shot and goal!
Edinburgh's Brittany Spithaller gets another goal and the Mounties try to tie it up. But no, the shot goes off the crossbar and the Fighting Scots escape with the 3-2 victory. The ladies are back in action on Wednesday as they welcome the Gannon Golden Knights. The Sprint football team traveled to Post University on Saturday. The Mounties get their first win of the John Evans era. The final is 14-10. They will take on Franklin Pierce this Saturday for the homecoming matchup. The Mansfield cross country team competed at the 52nd Albany Invitational on Friday afternoon. Both teams came in 6th place on the day. The women were highlighted by Kenzie Jones, who finished 17th with a time of 19:22.6 in the 5K race, and Lindsay Payne followed just 2 spots and 8 seconds behind. On the men's side of things, it was Ryan Clifford who paced the 8K race with a 26 flat, and Quincy Amabile and junior Jordan Holmes both came through under 30 minutes. The teams compete in the Bison Open this Friday in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. The men's and women's basketball teams opened up their first practice of the season this past Monday. The Mansfield women opened up their practice with a key group of returning players and a group of 6 newcomers. Head coach Michael Whitling said he's excited to work with this young group and has seen that the team chemistry has started already. The Mansfield men opened up practice with 15 student athletes, including 6 returners from a year ago. Tyler Moff, who started 25 games last season, and Division I transfer Ryan Bernstein will serve as team captains for the 2018-19 season. The women open up their season November 20th at Roberts Wesleyan, and the men open their season November 10th at the Shaw University Tournament. This week, catch a special Mountie All Access broadcast of the Mansfield Athletic Hall of Fame ceremony. That broadcast will start at 6 p.m. on Friday. Tom Ackerman, Ken Bianchi, Terry Stanley, and Chris Vaughn will be inducted into the Mansfield Alumni Athletic Hall of Fame. Now let's take a look at what else is happening this homecoming week for Mansfield Athletics. Do not go anywhere because Sports Talk is on the other side of the break.
In NCAA Division II, student athletes leave a lasting impression on their communities. That's because Division II student athletes want to make a difference and truly be part of their surrounding communities. Through community engagement, thousands of student athletes from various backgrounds interact with community members who view them as role models. This interaction leaves a positive and perhaps even life-changing impression on all those involved. In Division II, we rise to the opportunity and make community engagement ours.
As I've gone through school, I've been trying to pay off my tuition as I go, and it wouldn't have been possible without the help of the Mansfield Foundation.
I mean, the Mansfield Foundation already helped me a lot. As of right now, I don't have any school debt whatsoever, and I know the Mansfield Foundation has definitely helped with all the scholarships that I've received over the years for that.
The Mansfield Foundation has helped me out several times throughout my college career. They have helped keep my finances intact.
If you have any sort of instincts, you can get a feel of good people and bad people. Like, the people at the foundation are as straightforward as they come.
It's all part of Mother Nature's perfect blend, the keystone of the Keystone State. Visit Potter Tioga, a 2-county scenic outdoor haven conveniently located, yet worlds apart. A place where you can kick back, unwind, and forget about the pressures of life. Disconnect and reconnect with your friends, family, or even yourself while surrounded by nature's beauty. So start planning your adventures today at visitpottertioga.com.
Welcome back here to Sports Talk. Let's talk sprint football on this homecoming week as we're joined by the head sprint football coach, John Evans. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks, Drew. Glad to be here.
So before we get into this week that is homecoming, let's start with last week. Coming off of a bye week against Post, what were your initial thoughts at the end of that game?
Well, again, it was my first win ever here at Mansfield, and they say you always remember your first. I'll never forget this one. It was a lot of adversity. We did not start out the way we wanted to. We got put in a hole a couple of times. Our defense played very well, bailed us out, and then in the second half we got things rolling. Yeah,
so let's talk about that defense. The things that you saw with this defense and the improvements that they made over the first couple of weeks. How did that bye week help this defense?
Well, we changed a few things up. We're running a little bit more of a Michigan look now, which is one of my favorites, and they were tackling better. They were flying around to the football and just made plays. We made some big stops on post.
So much like the Chestnut Hill game early, it took the last quarter to really fight back through, and this time you come out with a W. What were some of the keys to that fourth quarter to get those two scores and ultimately come away with the victory?
Well, we made our adjustments at halftime, which is what we normally do. But, for some reason, this team is a second-half team. First time in 6 years that we've been a second-half team. We came back, we knew what we had to get done, and we got it done. There was no panicking. They were confident. They said, let's go, we got this, and we believed them.
And the strategy was kind of interesting, too, because you guys went the same play a ton of times in a row. What was it about that worked and you saw, oh, this is an opening, let's just keep hammering it down?
Yeah, it was actually 15 times in a row we ran the same play. Our offensive line played extremely well, and the holes were there. I could have ran through those holes. And David Butler had a career game. He just capitalized on the holes and poor tackling by Post, and we ran the field 95 yards for a touchdown.
And so let's move to this week. It's the spectacle that is homecoming this week. You have a lot of alumni coming back. Mm-hmm. How will that help to know that you have the football and sprint football alumni behind you on that sideline, ready to support you guys?
Well, it's like the 12th man. It's always good to be at home, for one thing, and it is a very supportive group of alumni. And it starts with the breakfast on Saturday morning and should lead right through after the game. I got so many texts and well wishes after that game Saturday. It's great to see them behind us. So it's a motivator.
And we've talked about this when Luma was here, the spectacle that was around. But homecoming's even more so unique. And for the freshmen and for a young team, what do you guys have to do to make sure when it comes Saturday at noon that these guys are focused and ready to go and didn't drown in the distractions?
Well, that's the thing, and with Luma being a night game, there's a lot of distractions. This is a 1 o'clock kickoff, so the distractions will be at a minimum, and we'll have them from 8 o'clock on, so there won't be a lot of free time, and we've got them occupied. We're preparing them already with what to expect, what to wear, what time we're taking the field, and I think it'll be much better. It's exciting. There'll be a lot of people here, but they got to get rid of the big eyes, and they're not freshmen anymore, in my opinion. They're veterans. We've already got 4 games under our belt, and they need to step up and rise today.
So the opponent, Franklin Pierce. Going into this game, it's going to be an interesting sort of situation that Franklin Pierce finds themselves in coming. This is really going to be their only away game that they have decided to travel to. So what do you expect to see from this group in this game? Well,
they're very athletic. I don't expect them to travel with many of their larger players, their D2 players. They've chosen to not complete the season except for our game. They've played 2 teams already and gotten beaten pretty bad by them. Not in our league, but out of our league. The 2 teams they played in our league, they won 1 and they lost 1. So I expect a very athletic team. They returned most of the guys that they had last year when we went up there. So I expect them to be very athletic. I just don't expect them to have large numbers.
And so let's talk strategy for this game. Offensively, the passing game struggled a little bit against Post. What do you have to do to get that back going?
Well, I think we went out on a wet field and a cold field, and it was raining up until kickoff, and I think we just have to settle the 2 quarterbacks down. Again, we've got more or less a 2 quarterback system right now, and I think whichever one is hot. Unfortunately, this week we have to depend on our passing game a little bit more, as our running game is, we've got a couple of injuries that may limit us.
And then defensively, what do you have to do to keep that momentum going against Franklin Pierce?
Just keep building on what we're doing. We're tackling better now. We're flying to the football. We're communicating. If we play like we played Saturday against Post, we shouldn't have any problem defensively.
All right, Coach, thank you so much for stopping by, and best of luck this weekend.
Thanks, Drew.
And Mounties Midweek rolls on after this. Don't go anywhere.
Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference.
Oh, what a play!
18 universities.
How competitive is this?
23 championships.
It's over. We have new PSAC champs.
7,100 student athletes. Make the PSAC yours.
My PSAC is passion.
My PSAC is pride.
PSAC is Pennsylvania.
Passion, pride, Pennsylvania. The Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference.
It's all part of Mother Nature's perfect blend, the keystone of the Keystone State. Visit Potter Tioga, a 2-county scenic outdoor haven, conveniently located, yet worlds apart.
With 10 state parks, 2 federal parks, and over 400,000 acres of state forest land, outdoor recreation certainly does live here, offering hiking, biking, horseback riding, ATV trails, hunting, snowmobiling, cross-country skiing, and so much more.
Close to many urban areas, but far away from the hustle and bustle, you'll feel like you've found a hidden corner of the East Coast where you can experience world-class, authentic outdoor adventure. Whether it's a family outing, a personal challenge, or even a leisurely walk, it all takes on a new perspective in these spectacular surroundings.
Follow our gurus through the Step Outdoor series at visitpottertioga.com and start planning your adventures today.
It's a small community, close-knit, it's beautiful. Now, as we join UPMC, it just opens a whole new world.
Together, UPMC and Susquehanna Health are bringing life-changing medicine to North Central Pennsylvania.
UPMC brings extraordinary innovation to virtually every aspect of the work we do.
Exchanging ideas, sharing research, it's a tremendous opportunity to learn in real time with world-class experts.
Changing lives every day. UPMC Susquehanna.
Welcome back here with more sports talk. Let's talk with some alum as it is homecoming week. And of course, we have a very special alum here, Mr. Mark Shelley. Thank you so much for taking the time and stopping by.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So you were the voice of Mountie All Access last year, and that translated into a brand new spanking job up there at ESPN Ithaca. How has that transition been for you?
It's been a fun transition. There's a lot of transition going on just at the station itself with personnel and me coming on board. But ultimately, it's been fun, switching from the sort of the TV video side of things, flipping over to the radio side. But ultimately, it's a fun transition. I started in radio, so it's really good to be back. It's really good to be back in just the audio format and. You get to be more lenient with what you wear. You don't have to wear the notorious red corduroy suit jacket anymore.
Absolutely. And a lot of people don't realize what kind of a difference that is between the TV side of things and the radio side of things. What exactly is the biggest difference between the two?
Yeah, when you're calling a game, it's very different because you have to remember in radio, the only thing people are seeing is what you're telling them and what you're describing to them. In TV, they have the pictures. They could mute you and go without it and still have an idea of what's going on. And with TV, it's more narrative. You're telling the story that goes along with the play. And in TV, you're going to be telling more of sort of the kid's history here at Mansfield. You'll tell the kid's history through his high school, if he's part of clubs, organizations, what he's like as a person. In radio, especially with fast-paced sports, you're describing the action, and it's very descriptive of specific location. If it's a football game, you have to describe if it's on the far hash, the near hash, left to right, right to left, what color the uniforms are, because people don't know that. They can't see that. You could tell somebody that it's black and pink or the color schemes when it's really red and white. They're going to believe you. Why? Because they don't know the difference. So you have to be on point at the top of your game in describing when you're talking on radio. And that's the biggest difference because you're always talking, you're always constantly describing. And TV, you get breaks. You can take natural breaks, allow the crowd to sort of fill in, and just let the game show what's happening without really having to talk over it. Radio, it's talking all the time.
Absolutely. What has surprised you? Something that you went into the job not exactly, I don't want to say not prepared for, but that you didn't expect that has really been thrown on your plate?
I think one of the first things is the sort of the absurd hours that you work, and they train you for it in college and in high school. They teach you about deadlines and things like that, but you have deadlines that are overlapping into the next day, where one morning you're getting something done, but you got to have the next edition of them set for the next morning. But then there's games thrown in the mix at night. So really, there have been days where it's 22 hours straight, where you're just constantly working, whether you're actually in the studio, at the field, or if you're at home, but you're still there with your computer up at I've had times where I'm sitting at my kitchen table, eating a bowl of cereal while I'm, typing up scripts ready to go in, come home for a couple hours just to take a load off and put some sweatpants and a sweatshirt on, just relax at home before I go back in, at 10 o'clock at night and leave it at 1 a.m. to record sports centers and all accesses. So really the change in hours from a traditional standpoint of a 9 to 5, that was the biggest sort of jolt coming in there. And it's no different in sports media. To anybody that wants to work in sports media, you're going to find that it is not 9 to 5. Whether you're working for a team, it'll be 9 to midnight. That's just the reality of it if you have game days. So it's definitely interesting. It's fun, but the hours they took time to adjust to. But we're getting there.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a dedicated time in the sports world for anything. So, it being homecoming this week, what did you take from the things you learned here at Mansfield that really you can apply to the job you have now?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I can take from Mansfield is sort of the expectation of excellence that professors put on us here. I would turn in papers that I believed were my best work. And I had a professor here, and some may remember him, Gary McIntyre, a couple years ago. He would have incredibly high expectations for his students and really pushed us. And I would hand in a paper where I thought it was an A project, and I'd get back a B+, and I'd be a little disheartened by it, but I'd go and ask him about it, and he says, because I know you can do better, and because I know that there's room for improvement. And that motivated me, and it brought about every time when I record a Sports Center, when I record a segment of the show, or when I'm doing play-by-play, I go back and I listen and I say, okay, I'll grade myself. I'll give myself a B. There's been times I've given myself a D- on a broadcast, and just said, this was not my best broadcast. So you have to go back and look and know that there are expectations of listeners to come out and give the best quality broadcast. And so being challenged like that here at Mansfield, certainly, and just, having a lot on your plate at Mansfield. People think that it's sometimes really stressful. College is just overwhelming. That's nothing compared to the real world. You're going to have 20 million things on your plate all at once, and you have to get them done in 24 hours. And there are hard deadlines. It's not, I'll lose some points if I go over. If you don't have these things done, you get fined by the FCC. You lose advertising money. So having those deadlines and having multiple classes put a lot on your plate all at once, that and the expectations that were set here at Mansfield, that's huge. And, I encourage students to work through it and really, get to the point where they feel comfortable working with multiple things on their plate, because it's only going to get harder from here.
Absolutely. So you graduated last December, and you did have that next semester working here. So that transition from a student to an alum wasn't as drastic until now. Now that you're coming back here, you're officially an alum. Well, you were officially an alum then, but yes, you know what I'm saying. Officially alum who isn't always on this campus. What is it different? Does it feel a little awkward at all, or when you step back onto this campus now, how does it feel? It's a little different. For 2 years, of working and broadcasting the sports here, coming back and being able for Luma. Coming back and being able to watch a game. That was the first time I said to my parents and I said to you that night, that was the first time I had ever been able to sit down in the stands and watch a football game. I've never had the luxury to do that, and it was crazy to be able to be a fan for once. Absolutely.
And obviously being the home broadcast, we tried to stay neutral, but you're obviously a Mansfield broadcast, so you give a little love to the Mountaineers, but you can't clap, you can't really celebrate, or at least visibly. But I'll tell you what, when Luma, despite the loss, when that opening kick went for a touchdown, that was the first time I was able to really stand up, and I stood up on the bleachers in front of me and was celebrating. It was really cool, but it was definitely a drastic change from coming back and coming in at 7 a.m. on a football Saturday and sitting out there and just taking things in before anybody else, before even the players are even awake. I would go out and I'd sit in the stands and take my notes and work on my game prep just to go and feel what the day was going to be like, and it was just relaxing. But I came and I got to go and tailgate and have fun and mingle with people rather than, pedal to the metal getting ready for the game. And, so it was definitely different. And it's different on game days too, of when I'm at home or at the office and I turn on the broadcast. It's different now. You guys have a lot more technology. Obviously, you're doing a fantastic job on the broadcasts. So it is definitely something different, but it is fun to be able to come back and not be a million miles away. But it is fun to come back every once in a while and just sort of take it in and see the differences and certainly the growth, and especially with this program too, what this program has become now.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for taking the time, stopping by.
Absolutely. I'm so glad to come back and be a part of this and be the proud alum.
Absolutely. And much more sports talk on the other side. Don't go anywhere.
Champions know how to seize opportunities. When they see moments of greatness unfold right before their eyes, they push as hard as they possibly can, and then they push harder. Because the heart of a champion never settles, never quits, and never stops giving its all. We are champions. We are Division II. We go big, we give it everything we've got, and we win. On the field, on our campuses, in our communities, for our causes, in our careers. We rise to become champions in everything we do. We are Division II, and there are no limits here. We make our time count. We set our own path. We become champions on our terms. It's time to up your game, because we're here to play and learn. But most importantly, we're here to discover ourselves, our vision, our heart, our drive, to achieve every goal we aim for, because we want to be champions at the highest level, life. At Division II, the opportunities are here. Are you ready?
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Here, let's talk some Hall of Fame, as we are joined by the future Hall of Famer, Chris Vaughn, just a week away from being inducted into the Hall of Fame, the voice of the Mountaineers. First of all, getting that Hall of Fame nod, what were your emotions when you saw that, oh, that's my name going up there with the Hall of Fame?
Well, I certainly was quite appreciative of it, and it was something that I really wasn't expecting, and that. But I've done the games for a long time, in my 37th year of doing some Mansfield PA announcing of some fashion or another. But I just enjoy doing it, and I wasn't really looking for any accolades, but I won't turn them down.
Absolutely. So, preparing for the Hall of Fame, I think, when you get to go in and see all the faces and all the athletes, some of which you have seen and called and been the PA for, what does it mean to be a part of that group?
Well, it's a very special feeling, because as I'm looking, in fact, I was up at Decker Gym just the other day and seeing some of the great names on the wall and going, man, I remember calling his touchdown there in 1984, or, oh, there's so-and-so, and he hit that three-point shot there to beat Kutztown in 97, and things like that. And it's like just to be in with that entire group of individuals, male and female, it's a special feeling. It's a special feeling, and I'm appreciative of it.
So you've been the PA announcer for, you said, 37 years. What has been some of the best moments? You've seen a lot of Mansfield moments. Has there been some things that have stood out to you that have been just incredible to watch?
Well, everybody says, man, you got to have some great stories because of the PA announcing and that. But the ironic thing is, like when you're doing football, you're up in the press box there. So you really don't see what's really happening down at field level. When you're also doing the baseball games, you're up in the press box. Softball games, you're up in the press box. So the only time really that I'm down at field level, and soccer in the press box, is like for the basketball games. And just seeing some of the interactions there with the basketball and where the PA is located, it's closer to the visiting team. So you get to really observe some of the antics of some of the opposing coaches and things like that. So that's always been fun, seeing how they coach games and things like that. And I have to say, though, the personalities back in the early 80s compared to today, things have toned down a lot.
Really?
Things have toned down a lot. I don't want to say characters, but there were some pretty interesting individuals there.
So who stood out, like out of those characters? Who was the name? And
I don't know the name of the gentleman, but it was like the second game I did, and it was a tournament game. I want to say Monmouth College. We were in a tournament. It was a championship game of the tournament, and the game was going about 8 minutes, 9 minutes, that's all. And the Monmouth coach calls a timeout, and he kind of looks at the referee and doesn't say it loud, which is why I think this worked for him. He just says, "Can I get a technical foul for thinking something?" And the ref kind of paused. No, you can't. So he turned around and started to go back towards his huddle. Then it was like, oh, what the heck? Well, in that case, I think you are he didn't swear. He didn't swear or raise his voice. So it was just a normal conversation. Well, in that case, I think you are the worst official that I've ever seen in my life. I don't think you've ever gotten a call right. I don't know what Mansfield has going for them here, but they certainly have you in their hip pocket, et cetera, et cetera. And I was ready to jump over the table if he gave me a technical, because that ref was just conned perfectly, and he did not give him a technical. He did not give him a technical foul. He kind of looked back and said, "You got me on that one, but if you ever try that again, I will tee you up so fast." And what happened then, suddenly, a couple of the marginal calls that had been going our way all of a sudden started to go in Monmouth's favor, and they actually won the game. So he kind of planted that seed, I guess, in the ref's mind. And I think the way he did it was perfect, because he wasn't ranting and raving. He wasn't using 4-letter words. He was just taking a normal conversation, telling the referee how he thought, because I guess he had a get out of jail free card to do that. So, and I said, wow, that's pretty cool. If this is like the second or third game that I'm doing, and this is happening, this is going to be we're going to see a lot of great stuff.
Oh, it's going to be a lot of fun, absolutely.
Yeah. But I think the coaches have toned down, I think, a lot, because with social media now and things like that, whether it's a Division I, II, or III game, any coach who really goes crazy on the bench and really just loses it, you're going to get flagged, and it's going to be all out there on social media and things like that. Where in the early 80s, when I started to do games, you could push the envelope a little bit, and whatever happened, literally whatever happened, is going to stay in Decker Gymnasium, and that, because it's not going to leave there, and things like that. But so that was probably one of the most interesting things that we had happen. And then just some of the coaches who really would match wits with like the legendary coach here, Ed Wilson, a very good friend of mine, and Mansfield had some great teams during Ed's era, and they're just trying to, like, we had one of the first games I did, first couple of years, it was before the shot clock. And we had a game where we were playing Westchester, and Mansfield scored the first basket of the game, and Westchester went into an all-out freeze. They froze the ball till the end of the first half. Wow. I think we scored one more basket. They got one. It was 4-2 at halftime. And the final score, Mansfield won 12-8. Wow. But that's one of the fraternities. That was great too. One of the fraternities, was yelling at the Westchester team from their spot on the other side of the bleachers. So what happened during the quickest game maybe in the history of basketball, because the 20-minute first half went about 20 minutes and 30 seconds with no interruptions as the other team's freezing the ball. They moved from the other side of the gym to right behind the Westchester bench. And they were yelling at the Westchester players. So in the second half, when Westchester called a timeout, one of the couple of the frat guys they were yelling, so the coach pulled the team onto the court. So when they pulled them onto the court into a circle, the frat guys took the seats, turned them around. So when Westchester came back to the bench, they were looking right into the eyes of the Mansfield fraternity. No. Their coach lost their mind on that one, and they did quickly bring a couple of security officers over there to more or less make sure that everything would go fine and things like that. But you don't get that kind of those things happening anymore, and I think social media is a part of that. So everybody has to mind their P's and Q's a little bit. And I remember the one game we had in basketball where we were playing a team from Canada.
Wow!
It was the first game they've ever played in the history of the school. The day before, the president of their school told them they could not go to Mansfield. They could not participate. They could not leave the country. The coach commandeered a van the day they were to start the tournament and came down to Mansfield like a rogue team. Of course, they came down, they had no money then because they didn't go to their bursar's office to get money for meals. And I mean, they had their reservations here that we were comping and things like that. But it was a tournament and that. And in the first 5 minutes, like the first 2 or 3 calls of the game, their coach exploded at the official, just exploded. And he got a technical foul for just like whether it was a blocking foul or a charging foul. And then a minute later, there was another call, just a simple call, and he went crazy again, and he got thrown out of the game. And we're 6 minutes in now. And they didn't have an assistant coach. So Mansfield wasn't playing in that game. So Ed Wilson sent down our graduate assistant at the time to coach their team for the game. But then after the game was over, the other point was, after he got thrown out, and I'm sure the officials saw him but didn't do anything, he kind of managed to get up to the weight room there up in the balcony. So when they were going down to the one end of the court, he'd be leaning over like this watching the game, and then when they come down the closer end of the court, he kind of like pull back like this. But the upshot of it was he learned how to coach by watching ESPN, which would always feature the antics of Bobby Knight.
Absolutely.
So he just thought that was the way you did things. And you didn't agree with a call, you could violently protest it and things like that. So I think Ed set him down and gave him a coaching 101, so to speak. And not that Ed couldn't get a little fired up on our side too, but kind of told him, how to go about coaching and things like that. And they actually won the second game of their tournament too. So he didn't have a bad basketball team, but so those were all. There's just some of the things that stand out from the basketball side of things.
And when you're doing PA, you can kind of, play with the crowd a little more and be a little bit of a fan. But how do you try to keep that fandom at a minimum? That's got to be a hard thing to do.
Yeah, it is. Certainly, I give a little more accentuation, in announcing the Mansfield players and things like that. But I've always thought it was a little over the top if you're really, going super crazy and things like that as far as being the fan. Because even in growing up, it was like I never liked announcers who were like total homers. Even if, I'm born and raised outside of Philadelphia, so you name the Philadelphia sports team, and they're my favorites. But I always thought sometimes some of the announcers just would, it was like, yeah, you could lose a game legitimately. It's not that the referee stole the game or anything like that. I know there were some announcers who never thought their team ever lost the game. If they did, it was just stolen from them. So I've always had a little bit of fair play approach and things like that. But hey, in a close football game, a close basketball game or something like that, I certainly am going to have a little more inflection in my voice when it comes to talking about the Mansfield baskets and things like that.
And so this week, it being homecoming, another kind of spectacle for the sprint football team. We had Luma earlier in the year. Is there something special about those kind of games when you're doing the PA, when it's a big game, big event, and big atmosphere?
I think everybody gets a little, certainly even as much as I've done it, when you see a good crowd on hand and things like that, and maybe a full house, the juices get flowing a little bit and things like that. In fact, since I've been getting into the Hall of Fame, a couple people have asked me some questions about the biggest crowd I've ever done a game before and things like that. And ironically, the biggest game I've ever done probably was not even the two biggest were games that didn't involve Mansfield University at all.
Really?
Probably the biggest football game crowd-wise I ever did. It was the very first 1890s. Back in whatever year that'd be, 1992, I guess, or when we had the first 1890s. It was a high school football game between Wellsboro and North Penn. Right. It was a sanctioned game that they played down at Smythe Park. The field, they had to get special approval because the field was 100 yards. It was like 95 yards, and it didn't have quite the proper width, but they had, got the agreement to be able to play, and we had built up the 1890s reenactment game so much that when we started the football game, it was a good crowd, but as the game was progressing, the crowd just continued to build and build and build, and I think the report was they had like 8,500 to 9,000 people there.
Wow.
Because you gotta remember, that was the first time, and it was something a bit unique. And then the biggest basketball game, I remember it was a triple header for district championships, and the biggest game was going to be Loyalsock and Wellsboro, when Wellsboro had Phil Hickey on their team, and both teams were like undefeated. And I can't remember the name of the player for Loyalsock, but they had a guy who was going to Penn State. So you had two D1 players, and it was a triple header. And they never cleared the gym between games. So the first game was like a consolation game at 12:30, but the fans had great seats and they knew what was coming, so they never left. And the same thing with the crowd for the second game. So as the Wellsboro and Loyalsock fans start to come into the arena, in the Decker Gym, there's like no seats, virtually no seats.
Wow.
And thank goodness the fire marshal didn't crack down on anything. I mean, they opened the end bleachers, they put people up into the weight room area where the coach of the Canadian team was hiding out. They were 3 or 4 deep surrounding the court. I don't know how many times the AD had me make an announcement to have everybody just take a deep breath, see if we can squeeze in just a little bit to get a couple more people in. But as I'm making that announcement, it's like, really? If you've got a comfortable seat now, are you really going to suck in so you can get squeezed in and have no room? Of course not. People were in the aisles and things like that. So that by far was we've had some really nice crowds for some college playoff games, but by far that was the biggest crowd ever for that game. In fact, it was spring break week. So fortunately, they could get parking to some degree, but people were parked all the way downtown.
Wow!
And if you've never done the jaunt from downtown all the way up to Decker Gym, You had a lot of people who were huffing and puffing and weren't too happy when they were getting there because they were huffing and puffing. And then to find that they had no seats after they had gotten in there. So it was quite contentious, I think, for the people who work in the snack bar out front and people just out in the lobby area. Because you had people for the biggest game of the high school season and they followed their teams all year. And now the best they're going to do, even though they're there an hour before game time, is to be 3 rows back with somebody in the doorway, trying to peek in like that. But so that was quite an atmosphere that afternoon.
All right.
Things like that.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by here, and congratulations once again, the Hall of Famer, Mr. Chris Vaughn.
Thank you so much, Drew. Appreciate it.
And Mounties Midweek rolls along after this. Do not go anywhere.
It's all part of Mother Nature's perfect blend, the keystone of the Keystone State. Visit Potter Tioga, a 2-county scenic outdoor haven conveniently located, yet worlds apart. A place where you can kick back, unwind, and forget about the pressures of life. Disconnect and reconnect with your friends, family, or even yourself while surrounded by nature's beauty. So start planning your adventures today at visitpottertioga.com.
I think that the strengths of the program are the professors.
Actively care about making you a better teacher.
To go into the schools from your freshman year.
We're in the classroom almost every semester that we are here at Mansfield.
My path to a college degree would have been completely different had I not run Division II cross country for the University of Mount Olive. Having an athletic and academic scholarship was key for my success. Our coaches were really helpful with balancing out my academics and athletics. I decided to attend graduate school because I wanted to become an athletic director. Receiving the postgraduate scholarship through the NCAA provided me with the flexibility to choose the school that I wanted. So now I know that I can accomplish any goal that I set for myself.
I'm Drew Patrick. This is the Mansfield Spring football team, and today I am out of my league.
What we're going to do is we're just going to track your hand-eye coordination. So they're going to start facing away from me. I'm going to say go. You're going to turn around as fast as you can, and then catch the ball, and then turn upfield and score a touchdown. All right. So you guys can hop in the middle, let them do a few, and you can see how it goes. All right. Okay. All right. So one guy out there. Let's go. Everyone else back here. Go. Oh, there we go. Beat. Shit. Go. Target. Score! There we go. There we go. All right, here we go. The big one. 12,070. Go. Give me that. Oh. Go. Yeah, we're just gonna run some routes, all right? So we're gonna do just a 3-step slant. So as Amir's demonstrating here, just gonna run 3 steps, and then 45-degree angle, catch the ball.
Y'all seen that, boy? It's going on camera, boy. Whoa, watch him out. Oh, wait. I'm going there.
You're set. I'm sorry.
Come on, dude. Go. Hey, give me that. Let's go. We got one more.
Go! Open your body up this way. This dude has a bad impression.
We got tight ends too now. Go. Bro, y'all jumping in the middle of he's a star. He's a 5-star.
Nice catch, Shuby. Here we go. Hey, we gotta go mob him. Run over there and mob him like this. You catch this one. Go!
That's a lot of pressure.
like that's a year faster. We still got time left. That's Tony Toe-Tip. Come on, give me the...
Run 10 yards, so run to the goal line. Break down, act like you're sitting in the chair. Like just never sit in the chair and then turn this way and the ball will be coming. Alright.
Give me that!
That was that time I actually tried not to fall, unlike all the others.
Go!
There you go. Score! There you go. Thank you. Yeah, tiptoeing outside the line. Go!
Baller! Touchdown!
Oh! Perfect so far.
Yeah, he caught it. I ain't gonna lie. Listen, so we call ourselves the nasty wideouts. We nasty. We catch everything. I mean, big blocks, big catches, big plays. Say NWO 13. NWO 13. Say it. NWO 13.
NWO on 3. 1, 2, 3.
NWO!
Yeah. Hey. So grading scale time. On a scale, normal grading scale, A to F.
I would go C+. Because you didn't drop a ball. That's one of the top things for me is not dropping the ball, route running, and blocking. So you did a pretty good job with route running. That's probably where you dropped down is the route running. But you caught every pass, so I can't be too mad. So yeah.
I'll take it. Yeah. I'll take this thing. Well, thank you very much.
No problem. Great job, man. Great job.
Court to court and lane to lane, under the lights or under the sun. No one delivers Division II sports like NCAA.com. The center of D2 is inside the NCAA.com hub. With exclusive highlights of every sport and live broadcasts of every Division II championship found nowhere else. Make NCAA.com yours. The home of Division II college sports.
Before we hear that final whistle on this show, let's talk about the play of the week. Last week, it was a battle between offense and defense, and based on your vote, the winner is Brittany Ryan's save. And Brittany Ryan with the big save. This week, our first play comes from the women's soccer team. Down 1 goal, it's Eleni Gebbia, gets her first goal of the season and takes advantage of the chaos in front of the net. Gets by and down, turnaround shot and goal! The second play comes from the field hockey matchup with Seton Hill. It's the second half. Dana Evans gets the steal, moves around and gets the goal. The Mounties ended up winning that contest 3-0. There's the matchup, both second half goals. You can vote on Twitter at Mountie All Access for your favorite play, and as always, results will be revealed next week.
Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference.
Oh, what a play!
18 universities.
How competitive is this?
23 championships.
It's over. We have new PSAC champs.
7,100 student athletes. Make the PSAC yours.
My PSAC is passion. My PSAC is pride.
PSAC is Pennsylvania.
Passion, pride, Pennsylvania. The Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference.
As I've gone through school, I've been trying to pay off my tuition as I go, and it wouldn't have been possible without the help of the Mansfield Foundation.
I mean, the Mansfield Foundation already helped me a lot. As of right now, I don't have any school debt whatsoever, and I know the Mansfield Foundation has definitely helped with all the scholarships that I've received over the years for that.
The Mansfield Foundation has helped me out several times throughout my college career. They have helped keep my finances intact.
If you have any sort of instincts, you can get a feel of good people and bad people. Like the people at the foundation are as straightforward as they come.
It's a small community, close-knit, it's beautiful. Now, as we join UPMC, it just opens a whole new world.
Together, UPMC and Susquehanna Health are bringing life-changing medicine to north central Pennsylvania.
UPMC brings extraordinary innovation to virtually every aspect of the work we do.
Exchanging ideas, sharing research, it's a tremendous opportunity to learn in real time with world-class experts.
Changing lives every day. UPMC.
I knew that there was an opportunity to have my college paid for if I was good enough to play baseball at that level. That was going to make a big difference in my family. D2 baseball gave me an opportunity to play at a high level and to get an education that's going to be valuable for me throughout the rest of my life. I chose to take my experience of being a student athlete and pursue that within my career and to get a master's degree. If I wouldn't have had a baseball scholarship, there'd be no chance that I'm doing what I'm doing today.
That's all we have for you today. To stay up to date on all things Mansfield Athletics, head to GoMounties.com. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next week.